Well, welcome back to our latest weekly Fireside Chat video. Again, my name is Pastor Dave Larson, the pastor here at St. John, and we're glad that you're joining us this week as we spend a little time in 1 John chapter 3. What we're doing at the church is, again, we're not going through an official sermon series on Sundays right now, but we do follow the lectionary, so that's a fancy term for the assigned readings for the week. And again, whether you go to a Lutheran church or a Catholic church, any church that is maybe a little more liturgical, and you'll know if they're liturgical if they have these Old Testament reading or the first reading and then the epistle reading, which is a reading from a letter, and then the gospel reading. So that's following the lectionary. There's a few different options out there, but a lot of times they overlap. And so for our readings each week in the season of Easter comes from 1 John, the book of 1 John. And this week, the reading is from 1 John chapter 3, and I want to just read to you just a portion of it. Just one verse. It says, actually a couple verses. So starting at verse 16, it says, "This is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters. If anyone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need, but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? Dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth." And this is a very powerful teaching, powerful reminder, even for us, all these years later, that again, when we are called to live out our lives as the people of God, we're not called to just simply talk it, talk about things, but actually put it to work, to walk the walk as well. This reminds me of a story. I'm still in this story, kind of this illustration from an author, Francis Chan, and I had a chance to hear him speak. If you're not familiar with him, he's written a lot of books and a great preacher, a great teacher. I remember one time hearing him speak, and he talked about this idea of, imagine that you went to your kid. So if you got a child and you went to your child and you looked in their room, and their room is just an absolute mess, just, a disaster area. And so you tell your child, hey, clean your room. And so you leave, and a couple hours later you come back and you open the door, and you see your kid sitting there, and the room's still a disaster, nothing has been done. And you say, didn't I tell you to clean your room? And imagine they said, well, we heard what you said, but we want to spend some time thinking about this. So I got some friends together, and we set up a little kind of committee, a little group, and we talked through what that means to clean and what exactly is a room. And so we've got some great ideas on what to do with what you said, and we hope to implement some of these ideas in the near future. And again, if you're a parent and you're come across this, you're probably going to become very enraged because you just want them to clean the room. You just want them to do it. You don't want them to talk about doing it. And again, the point of this illustration is for us as Christians in particular, there's times where we can be tempted to talk about doing what God wants us to do, to form boards and committees. And there's certainly nothing wrong with that. We have boards and committees here at the church. But if a church, a congregation of the people of God, if all they ever do is talk about loving others and caring for others and doing what Christ calls us to do, to live out the gospel, share the gospel, bless others with the gospel. If all we ever do is talk about what we're supposed to do without actually doing it, then we're failing to do what John tells us to do. And so that's my encouragement to you, especially this week when you think about these words. And again, it's very easy. We're all guilty of it, those times where we think about what we should do. We talk about what we should do, but we don't actually do what we should do. So again, when you think about this week, are there areas in your life where you think about what you should do? You talk about what you should do. You talk about ways to serve and care and love and bless, to be a good neighbor, to be a good spouse, to be a good parent. You talk about these things, but maybe you find yourself not actually doing them. And so again, this week, maybe find ways to actually do it, to do the things that we're supposed to do, to love others, to imitate Christ, to live out our baptismal identity. So God bless you this week. Again, think about what Jesus has called you to do, but then go and do what Jesus has called you to do.